Scale of Everton's 10-point deduction shocked football in a way that it's felt beyond Goodison Park. Even figures from other clubs were stunned as they went through the 41-page judgment for breaches of FFP. Part of that is that there was no precedent for this. The Premier League had never done anything like it. This is why many the rest of the world football fans are watching just as keenly. Over the last few years, a constant refrain in the highest level ballrooms has done the following: something must be done about the power of the Premier League. A fair question is now whether something is going to change, because the Premier League has done something, except the Premier League would be keen to say that it didn't do this. The English top flights just believed there was a breach and referred it to an independent commission. Even the statement that was headlined Everton deducted 10 points by independent commission. The language is read as quite pointed at a time when the Premier League is posing as the biggest resistance to an independent regulator. So this is all a show of governance. Some of the response, however, has already been an illustration of where the Premier League might be headed over the next decade. This might well be an ongoing and fractious debate about what happens in courtrooms and legal meetings rather than what happens on the pitch, to say nothing they said between sets of supporters. Everton have publicly made their grievance, have made the outcome clear with 14 days to launch an inevitable appeal. After that, if the decision is upheld, they can't go into CAS. Leeds, Leicester, Burnley and potentially Southampton have 28 days to lodge compensation claims for loss of earnings due to Everton staying up at their expense. Such long legal cases might be more concerning for the club rather than what comes next, especially since the weakness of the season's promoted clubs may well mean that 10 points isn't enough to see Sean Dyche's side relegated. Sources connected to Everton also feel that the points number will come down on appeal. Coincidentally, some of the club's harsh critics already pointed to the example of Luton in 2008-9. There's a view, particularly among the relegated, that they shouldn't have lost out for conforming to the rules. That is where the discussion has gone now since the initial shock has passed. On the other side, there's been a debate about the logic of the FFP rules. Most criticism has been reserved for the idea of getting points deductions for losses of 124.5 million instead of 105 million, particularly when knowledge of that came from internal documents that the club openly shared in order to cooperate. Everton themselves closed their statement with what looked like a warning. The club will also monitor great interest the other decisions concerning Premier League profit and sustainability rules at Red. There are similar cases over Man City with 115 charges, as well as Chelsea with investigations into the Roman Abramovich era after multiple allegations of secret payments, etc., etc. The new ownership already paid an 8 million settlement with UEFA earlier this year for self-reporting potential breaches to the European body in the Premier League. There have been a feeling that this may earn goodwill with the authorities, but the Everton case illustrates that may not lead to much down the line. There's an issue of perception, but once much bigger, looked at how certain details are looked at. Taking in all these cases, and with the added complexity of how interlinked these situations are, and it only deepens the wider debate about where English football is headed. There's now a cloud over at least the last 9 Premier League titles, 8 Champions League qualifications and 2 relegation places before you even go into more mundane but still costly issues like prize money for placings. This isn't what football is supposed to be about. Supporters aren't supposed to be able to see what they trust, and the entire concept of the sport is dependent on it. This certainly isn't what the Premier League is supposed to be about, especially when so many foreign league executives say that the image of good governance has been part of its international growth. This may be a huge area and you need to end that. The potential expulsion of off-the-field examinations litigations is increasingly seen as the inevitable consequence of an era when the Premier League was too laissez-faire in regulations. They stood in strong contrast to the Football League, who's had a series of issues. The views of many competition insiders, the old Rich Scudamore regime, didn't seriously look enough for breaches and didn't want to damage the Premier League brand. What it potentially did, however, was create conditions where this could be possible. Nobody likes point deductions or asterisks on the table, one source says, but for doing it for smaller cases prevents far bigger problems. This is all coming home to roost. The argument, of course, can be extended to a much wider issue of the ownership and how lacking in regulation the Premier League has been on that too. 2 cases that were referenced here involve 2 takeovers as seen as landmarks in modern history. The 2003 Abramovich purchase and the 2008 Abu Dhabi of Man City. Much of the Everton case could be instructive for both. The scale for the punishment is clearly now very high. One paragraph of the judgment makes this all too clear. At one level, disregard for the rules and difficulties can be said to increase Everton's capability. We did not exceed, but there is commission considers that they were in double counting. We have already made clear that our approach is to start by considering the extent to which the PSR threshold has been exceeded. The greater the excess, the greater the culpability. We do not consider the reasons for PSR breach should aggravate the culpability unless they can be said to constitute exceptional conduct. For example, a deliberate cynical breach of the PSR to achieve a sporting advantage might increase culpability, and beyond that already arrived by the extent of the breach. These instances are why many many are saying openly City and Chelsea should face huge points deductions or even relegation if found guilty. No punishment could be as straight as director's relegation, though. Any punishment going that far would be an expulsion, at which point the Football League would have to decide whether they want to admit them. While there may be harsh penalties, though, there evidently isn't as much an appetite for retrospective punishment. This could leave previously tabled unchallenged, and public opinion would be different. This is a danger the Premier League's got itself into. Over a decade of English football is under scrutiny. Might this lead into something of a Calpoli era, where there's so much litigation, where the very reputation of the game is affected? For all the grimes of that, there are many who believe it could be for the greater good. One source mentioned that and said, it could be beneficial for the long-term future. But anyway, guys, that's it video. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and it's also for daily football news and subscribe to the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.